Hello, I'm Sam Underwood.
And I'm Graham Dunning.
And this is the Mammoth Beat Organ.
The Mammoth Beat Organ is a mechanical, modular, acoustic musical instrument designed by me and Sam to be played by two players at the same time. It's partly playable and it's partly programmable.
One way to consider the Mammoth Beat Organ is like an inside-out fairground organ. So whereas in a fairground organ you have things like a drum sequencer and various pipes that can be played by things, in our case all of that is exposed and is accessible. So you can not only change the sequences of things, but directly manipulate the sounds that they create. So if you don't like the sound of a snare drum, or you want to change the pitch of an organ pipe, you can just do that by sticking your hand in to the workings of the machine, and that will alter the way that it sounds. The air sequencer module that we have has 8 outputs. Each of those outputs has a valve, and then for each of the valves there is a wheel that turns with 16 steps, like a 16-step sequencer, for which it can be either on or off according to the position of a little slidey thing that we can change in real time. So if you want the valve open, you slide it into one position. If you want the valve closed, as it passes, you slide it back into the other position. Through that method you can create a sort of sequence that goes around across all of the 8 valves, and then how often that passes in one cycle is determined by which of the cogs you choose to engage on either side of the machine. So you can have them running at half speed and I think 2 to 3, and we have quite a number of complex options that can happen rhythmically then.
A different way of looking at the Mammoth Beat Organ is that it's like a sampler sequencer, like a Groovebox 303, but it happens to be mechanical and acoustic version. Me and Sam are both used to producing electronic music, so we've experienced performing live with drum machines and that sort of thing, and it's a different type of performance when you have something that's programmable and kind of runs by itself. So another example of that is the rhythm unit. It's essentially used for most of the drums and percussion. So it consists of 4 different sections, and each one has 2 beaters on it. And those beaters are activated by placing differently shaped cams, throwing down the cog onto the drive shaft, and that makes the cam lift and then drop the beaters. If you think about it as a step sequencer, it's kind of like pausing one of the sequences while all the rest of them carry on running. So you can actually get quite interesting phasing things just by starting and stopping different ones at different times. Quite often we use normal acoustic drums. Sometimes we would use glockenspiel bars or something like that. Sometimes we use other small percussion. There's a little miniature hi-hat, there's a cowbell, various other things. The different cams that you can put on the unit are divided up by different numbers. So some of them are in patterns of 3, some 4, 5, 6. We've got quite a lot of 7-time cams. Because of the way the system works, they're all interchangeable. So it means you could have, for example, a drum playing a 4/4 beat and then put something on in a division of 7 over the top, or 6 or 3, or whatever you want it to be. So you can get quite interesting patterns. We found after a while that that was slightly limiting, so each of the different sections can now have 3 different speeds on it. You can play them all so that they all run at one cycle together, or you can gear them differently. That means that you can do kind of polymeter and polyrhythm quite easily as well. It gets really confusing quite quickly, but that's part of the joy of this machine, that it kind of has a mind of its own, a life of its own, and some agency in the way that it makes the sound. Me and Sam had known each other for a number of years, socially and to make music. We played together in an improvising trio with Colin Webster on saxophone. Sam plays tuba and I play turntable. We've both seen each other play quite often as well and liked each other's approach. I think our interest in different types of music has quite a lot of crossover as well. So it seemed natural that we were going to work together at some point. So we decided in, I think, 2017 to throw some ideas around and see what came out. I went up to Sam's and we made some contraptions with bike wheels and things. Decided then it was worth pursuing, put in for some Arts Council funding, and then that led to our first show with the Mammoth Beat Organ, which was at Supersonic Festival in summer 2018. So quite a lot of our research in developing the machine was into fairground organs, player pianos and barrel organs, these kinds of mechanical music playback systems. And it's quite interesting that really mechanical music went out of fashion at the start of the 20th century as recorded music became popular. And that meant that really fairground organs never got the opportunity to be experimental. There's not really very much avant-garde music written for mechanical instruments. Even nowadays, most of the things that you see of mechanical instruments will be someone doing a cover version or something like that, and we wanted to really exploit the opportunities that it provides by having a mechanical instrument to make music that you wouldn't be able to make by other means.
Yeah, some of the ways that we go about that are similar to how maybe a musician might use extended technique on their instrument. So things like organ pipes that are overblown or underblown to create different timbres and tones. That's quite an unusual thing to be doing in a mechanical musical setting, because what you tend to do is try and build a thing that functions as it should at all times. We also incorporate quite a lot of the sound of the machine itself in what we do. So to some degree we don't have a choice because we're not the best engineers in the world, so you get quite a lot of noise off some parts of the machine like the cogs and so on. But also we extend that with by having sections where we perform by putting stuff into the machine itself, so directly dragging stuff on the drive shaft, or there's a section where we put playing cards into the cogs so that it creates a very loud chatter and just amplify really and bring to the fore the noise that the machine itself makes, which again is stuff that normally you're trying to hide or get rid of as much as you possibly can.
One of the things we wanted to do when we started out with this project was to make something which was ongoing so that we could keep developing it and adding new things as it went along. So that's what we tend to do when we have a show, is we'll meet up at Sam's, set up the Mammoth Beat Organ and not only rehearse a bit and practice playing the machine, but also develop some new parts for it as well. So a good example of this would be the glockenspiel bars section. So we added these into the rhythm unit so that it could play melodies as well as percussion, but also I've added in this kind of automated section with two rolling barrels of glockenspiel bars which kind of go in and out of phase as the beaters are playing. So it creates this kind of unusual, almost generative music which we then add different components to.
Graham and I have never made anything quite of this scale before, so it's been quite challenging. Something that we've made before might be mechanical, or on my side just an acoustic musical instrument, but to bring those two together and then scale them to the scale that the Mammoth Beat Organ has been quite challenging. Luckily, I think those two skills work really well together. So I'm really good at designing acoustic musical instruments and acoustic systems and how to get the most out of it sonically. And Graham's really good at working on the mechanical side and the systems side and how you get it to play and function as a musical instrument or a sequencer or whatever. So there's a number of overlap skills there that when you bring them together create something that's working out pretty well. And really when we perform live, what we're trying to do is expose all of that understanding and the systems design and how we create interesting acoustic sounds to an audience in as direct a manner as we can. So when we first played, as I mentioned, that was at Supersonic Festival, and that was on a large stage with microphones over the top, and it was quite difficult really to get across the way in which we were making some of the sounds. And we've strived since then really to work in a smaller environment, acoustic environment. Probably our best gig to date was at Torfest, where we were rammed in this little room in a pub. Everybody was right on top of us. They were putting their pints on the machine as it was playing, all sorts of stuff like that. But the beauty about it was that they could really see how much effort we were putting in, what bits weren't working out quite right. They were right there able to see it in all of its glory and all of its failings. That serves to provide, I think, a really engaging performance, something that Sarah Anglis has referred to as a coupled performance, where you really get a sense of performer does this, outcome is this, and you know you're in there with them in the moment.
Early on we were wondering about whether to introduce kind of pickups and different kinds of amplification, partly because some of the bits of the system are a lot quieter than others and the machine itself makes quite a lot of noise. But actually when you're seeing something live right in front of you, you can kind of hear where the different sounds are coming from on the machine, and it's almost part of the listening experience is to focus on which bits are making what sound rather than having everything at perfectly kind of mic'd amplified volume.
And we've generally had really good response to the Mammoth Beat Organ when we've played live. They can see as audience members that we're absolutely going for it, but you know, it's quite a lot of effort to play. There's various things that you're having to lift into place and then make sure you don't get your fingers trapped and so on. So there's a lot going on, and it's you know, it's something that is an unusual type of performance to see. I think that's generally gone down really well. Of course, if you move into the online realm, as we have done with some of our videos of the Mammoth Beat Organ, then it's not everybody's cup of tea. We get quite a lot of "this is not music" or that sort of stuff. We're pretty used to that. That's all cool. When people are there with the machine in a space, it seems to go down really well.
So as well as the live performances, we wanted to use the machine for different things as well. We're kind of considering using it as an installation piece at some point, but also the other main thing we want to use it for is for recording in the studio. So I released an album on a label called Front and Follow in February 2019, and it really gave us the option to think about how to record it and which elements to use together. Think about making kind of shorter pieces rather than playing a whole 40-minute set with everything that it can possibly do. It's also quite interesting to release something just as audio only. The artwork for the release didn't have any pictures of the machine or anything like that even, so really detaching it from how the machine is made, I think that gives it a different dimension really, and you get a real feel for how unusual the music that you can make with this machine is, which is one of the main goals for this project really.